Okay, well, welcome back everybody to PMGT. This is week 2. Let's start week 2 as we begin integration management by taking a look back at how we defined project management in the last lesson. The definition of project management, of course, being the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to satisfy stakeholders' needs. Remember, it's largely about the stakeholders, especially the key stakeholders, the decision makers. And you're applying your knowledge, what you're learning here, the skills you've developed over a lifetime, in these tools and techniques. To do that, then, we're able to conduct integration management. This is what we do as project managers. This is who you are. These are your processes. So project integration management, then, is defined as the activities to identify, define, combine, unify, and coordinate the various processes within these process groups. If you remember, the process groups are at a very high level. It's a high level of understanding, grouping processes together that work well together. Okay? In fact, I referred to the group of them as IPEC, initiating, planning, executing, controlling, and closing. The second to last C of IPEC really should be monitor and control. Whenever I say controlling, I'm talking about the monitoring and controlling process group. But I remember it as IPEC, the process group's very high level. Okay, so to perform then as a project manager, to perform integration, you want to work with the sponsors, and you want to tie, if you go back to the graph on page 25, you're looking to tie the process groups to the strategy. Remember, the business case is going to lead to the PM being assigned, and when the PM is assigned, on page 25, you will begin the initiating process group. You will first work to develop a project charter and identify stakeholders. This is what you're doing in this process. Okay? So, in doing so, the PMs guide the team to integrate those process groups with the knowledge areas you see on the left. I mentioned in the last lesson the knowledge areas go by various other names. They're called management areas. These are also constraints, so the project schedule management is a constraint now on the other management areas like scope, cost, quality, etc. These are also when you develop the actual plan in the planning process group. When you develop the actual plan, like 8.1 plan quality management, that's called now your methodology. Or in 10.1 plan communications management, the output is the plan for communications, and that's a methodology. And of course, they're also called subsidiary plans. Okay? So throughout integration, you're looking to balance trade-offs. This is making choices between all these constraints. And I would say the 3 key constraints are schedule, cost, scope, and quality, and stakeholders. But that's actually 5. The 3 key ones being schedule, cost, and scope, but 2 other very important ones right behind that, stakeholder and quality. Okay? So it's about how you allocate resources to balance them, how you tailor these processes to ensure that everything is met, how you manage the interdependencies, because you're about integrating them. There are multiple parts. The number of connections are large. It's a very dynamic environment, and behavior will result from there. Now, today's lesson, this is what over the next, I think I'll do 4 lessons for this week. Short lessons. This is what we want to accomplish at the end of it. So please review that and make sure that you're comfortable with the objectives. Okay? So just from a big picture again, taking a step back quickly. Remember, we have the process groups, which are very high level. And those include the IPEC. And we're integrating them with Part B. You'll notice at the top I write Project Management Plan. This is how I'm going to do something, or these are my constraints. These become subsidiary plans. And I'm going to build the plan. The plan is going to be very good, but while I execute, I'm going to learn stuff. Because remember, the definition of a project is unique and temporary. So because it's unique, I expect changes. I build a plan to avoid changes, but I still expect changes. So, and so it's going to require change to modify anything in the project plan. And anything in the project plan is listed by dots or bullets under that. So there's the scope management plan, the requirements management plan, the schedule management plan, cost, quality, and resource management plans, communications, risk, procurement, and stakeholder management plans. Then there are other management plans that I want to refer to. Configuration management really means what level of version control am I on? Am I on baseline A, B, C, etc.? The change management plan, which is going to drive integrated change control. And then I have to include my baselines in the plan. My scope baseline, my schedule and cost baseline. We'll discuss those more later. And then I want to describe my project life cycle, which we talked about last week. But remember, the project life cycles are really the phases from initiating to closing. Now, in project management, that's in a generic sense. You're actually going to apply your life cycle phases from whatever industry you work in. And we're going to develop this predictive approach generally, as opposed to agile, which is more Scrum-based or Kanban. There are a lot of similarities between these, but this course and the Project Management Professional Certification exam are about predictive project management. So that's A and B, and then we're going to have documents. These are documents I largely can change, or they're active without change control. There are three exceptions: the charter, the statement of work, and agreements or contracts. Those I can't really change. But the rest, my activity list, as I learn of an activity I can add to it, I don't need change control for that. As I gain new estimates, I don't need change control for that. Okay, so there's A, the process groups integrating with B, the knowledge areas to create this project management plan, and the project documents that I will use. Now, the overview of integration management involves 7 processes, and these 7 processes define what I do. It's through these processes that, if you're looking on page 25 of the PMBOK guide, those across the top in integration management, those processes allow me to manage the entire process group. So in the initiating planning group, process group, I'm going to have 2 processes, or 1 process. I'm going to develop the project charter. Keywords, that's going to formally authorize my project, which is going to allow me legally to use resources in the company. So it should be it's a high level, but it should be clear. Then there's the planning process group, and my role is to develop the project management plan. By doing that, I'm integrating all those subsidiary plans on page 25 and making them work together. So when my scope people say, here's your scope, Molnar, I go, yeah, but that doesn't match our cost. I can't afford to do that. I get to integrate them and make them work together. Then I'm going to take that plan, and in the executing process group, I'm going to direct and manage the work. That's basically building it, whatever the deliverable is. I'm building it, I'm learning from it, and I'm creating changes because I'm not seeing what we plan producing, what is called for from a quality perspective or a requirements perspective, etc. And so I'm going to implement changes. Also in executing, I'm going to manage project knowledge. Now this is a new one to the PMBOK Guide version edition 6. This is using existing knowledge and creating new knowledge. Learning, always collecting lessons learned. I've frankly been collecting lessons learned since back in the initiating process group. But here's the formal process by which we categorize and audit. Then I'm going to do monitoring and controlling. So there are 2 processes in the monitoring and controlling process group. One not to confuse you, is the monitor and control project work. That's a process in the process group called monitoring and controlling. And here I'm basically tracking, review, and reporting performance. Then I have another process in the monitoring and controlling process group in my area called integration management. And that's called integrated change control, or sometimes I'll just refer to it as ICC, where I'm going to, it's the formal mechanism to review a change request, get it approved or disapproved, log it either way, update the plans, and communicate to the stakeholders. And then I'm going to close, do the closing process group. So in doing that, I'm actually going to finalize the project plan, planning groups and get formal acceptance in closing. Remember, projects are temporary and unique. So by temporary, they will close. They're not operations which go on and on. So this is all very specific to the PM. You'll want to tailor it and examine alternatives throughout. Okay? And then some key concepts and trends that the PMBOK guide mentions in the integration process group. So this is what we do. So it's the PMBOK guide will say it's specific to project managers. And so it cannot be delegated. There's a lot I can delegate and should delegate. These things cannot be delegated. We are ultimately responsible. Okay? And so it's the link amongst all the processes. And of course, we know that it's iterative in nature. We want to ensure the due dates are aligned. We want to ensure the plan is meeting the objectives. We want to manage performance and changes. We want to integrate decisions and collect data and those sort of things. Okay? In trends, the use of automated tools is increasing. It may be necessary to use the PMIS, P-M-I-S, or what we've heard is the Project Management Information System, which may be an automated tool to collect, analyze, and use information. There's visual management tools like maps, for example. There's project knowledge management, which is identifying knowledge and transferring it in a way that it is not lost, that we can learn the lessons. These are trends. We want to expand the project manager's responsibilities, such as in this version of the PMBOK guide, it's the growth of our understanding of the business case and our activities there. And of course, we may implement hybrid methodologies. If you're familiar with ITIL, Information Technology Infrastructure Library, I may use those phases in my project management plan, project management framework. I did just that when I did a project out at Scott Air Force Base. And then, of course, tailoring projects we've discussed. Because each project is unique, we need to tailor it, and these are some of the considerations for tailoring. Okay, that's all I have for the very first of 4 lessons. Let's take a break and come back. Thanks.